Hi guys, welcome into this VOD review. We're going to be using the actual replay files here to watch G2 versus SKT. I hope you all enjoy my YouTube voice. I know Twitch chat is loving it right here. So let's get into the games. We're just going to not worry about the actual pick bans here. We're just going to look at the overall drafts and how they should end up playing out. So there's enough weird champs in chat that I think we're ready to get started. Overall team composition goals right here. First thing I always look at is like early game and then like mid game, late game, sort of phase it out like that. And when you look at early game, you primarily focus on junglers. So Jankos is on a level 3 ganking jungler, very strong early skirmisher. Klid also can gank post level 3, but is very bad in skirmishes, mainly because Rek'Sai, the damage is based off of auto attacks. You have Hail of Blades, you actually have a keystone, whereas Predator, you just don't get to access that more than once every, couple minutes. So it's like significantly worse in any kind of fights. When we look at actual lanes though to set up around, you check out top lane. You expect Khan to have an advantage here on the Renekton. He has a lot more access to early game damage. His DPS is also a lot more reliable. So you have like the armor shred on E, you have a lot of healing. Your stun is unmissable, whereas Wanderer can actually miss his. So top lane is favored towards SKT. Mid lane, I honestly haven't seen too much Neeko recently, but both sides have good gank assist, both sides have good wave clear, so it comes down to like how you manipulate the waves to figure out who actually gets pushed and who can look for roams away. Again, bottom lane is going to be a similar story. You have good CC on both sides. I would favor the Zyra Khan in terms of wave clear, mainly due to her feathers, but also like the all-in power. You have more CC coming from Zyra feathers too. So basically what I look at in this early game is I'm thinking Klid's pathing has to be these red side camps. Very likely that he does 1, 2, and that's a 2, by the way. Right there, if you guys can't tell, that's a number 2. Recalls and then pass into the top lane, and they can look to play around Khan off of that first reset. While Jankos, I don't think he actually wants to commit to the 2v2 top side because it's actually really hard to kill Khan. So I would expect him to do something similar where he starts on his red buff, goes into Krugs, Raptors into his bot side, and then can look for either a gank on mid lane around the 3-minute mark or a gank on bottom lane. But that's what we're expecting here for these two teams. When we look at actually scaling between these two compositions, G2 are going to have a stronger 1-3-1 threat or side lane threat because Ryze should eventually beat both Renekton and Neeko in a side lane. SKT don't have like a super split pusher. Unless they're able to sneak in like a Faker and a Conda 2v1 caps. You expect caps to be unbeatable 1 versus 1 later on in the matchup. But SKT make up for that with some pretty strong team fighting tools and initiation tools with the Gragas and Leona, plus the team fight damage of Teddy. But I also think that we reach a point where I think G2 probably outscale in team fights, primarily because they're damage threats. Because even though you assume like Gragas is going to outscale the Rek'Sai, you also assume that having 2 DPS threats here, consistent DPS threats, Neeko's going to fall off unless she can get an insane ultimate, and that's going to be really hard against the defensive options that G2 have. So you assume that G2 will eventually outscale in the 5v5. So let's get into the game right here. And we can speed it up. How fun is that? Woo! And we're on to the Rift, folks. Slow things down one more time. This is a very common ward you're going to see a lot of junglers do, is you place this one where you place it before anyone can spot it out. It defends you from any potential late invade, which has been very popular. Then you go back to base, pick up a sweeper, and that's going to be active for around that 3-minute mark because the cooldown on it really isn't too long. So that's sort of like the optimized play we've been seeing a whole lot of recently here at Worlds when it comes to jungling. Now Klid is actually not doing this, which is maybe a little bit surprising to me. Although, assuming he does his 3 camp into reset, then we are going to be seeing him picking up that late sweeper. You guys like the zoom out effect? Look at that. We can zoom out. How much more soothing is this to watch? I prefer this so much more. Anyways, we have a little bit of a late invade coming through from Khan and Faker. I'm honestly a bit surprised Faker didn't like transform into Gragas here just to try and reveal it, but he does put this ward on Raptors, which will spot out the 3 camp path that Jankos likely wants to go for. As you see, he's going to go up towards this one and then down again, and directed camera is baiting me, really trolling me, but whatever. Bot lane, oh yikes. Okay, so Bot lane Mickey, one thing he likes to do on Rakan is so he'll take E at level 1 and try to auto harass you, and either he was late to cast his E or he just didn't respect that move from effort, but they got smashed in that 2v2. That was actually just pretty poor play for Mickey, and it ends up actually costing perks on top of that. Now, their wave is actually, they should actually hit level 2 first. That's the benefit of taking this, so I wonder if they look for an early all-in off the level 2 spike. That would be my guess. Doesn't look like they're using it. At the same time, Jankos took this long pathway around bot lane so he doesn't get spotted out by the ward that he knew was here. So this is going to throw off SKT a little bit. Now, you still assume that Jankos started on red buff, so I don't think SKT are going to actually be confused. They expect him to be down here. They have this ward to protect them as well. Now Klid. Klid can't really make a gank happen here. Yeah. Klid should go back to base. He did his 3 camps and then goes back. I do really like this control ward though, because one thing you can do on Rek'Sai is red side Rek'Sai is actually pretty bad at ganking bottom lane. Because if we actually just pause and consider how the terrain is set up, Rek'Sai wants to be able to jump through like this super thick wall to find a gank. But when he's on red side, he actually doesn't have that ability to do that. Because you see where the lane is set up. If he jumps over this wall, unless SKT are all the way up here, he doesn't have a gank. Whereas if he is blue side and he comes this way, he can actually like go around and come through this wall and gank like Perks and Mickey. So red side Rek'Sai is worse at ganking bot lane than is ganking top lane, because on top lane you can actually do this play. But one thing you can do on Rek'Sai, the way you get around that is you can come through Dragon Pit very early on, tunnel over this wall, and then walk behind them. So even though you burn your gap close, you can still look for that gank, and that's why I think that word's really important. Jankos gets spotted out on that ward, so they're unable to make it happen. Oh, and I remember this. He doesn't actually get this ward because he's a little spooked. He's like, wait, is Gragas here? Now, this is potentially really bad for Jankos. Because he went for this pathing and left this camp up, I would not be surprised to see Klid try to move in here and try to steal Raptors. He has priority in top lane. Mid lane, he doesn't have priority, which is the only thing that's going to be hurting him. So he wants to look for a gank in mid lane to then set up for a Raptor camp steal. I actually don't love this from Klid. I wish he'd gone a little bit more aggressive. Like, he saw Jankos bot side, and like, now Jankos is blitzing over here to make sure that his Raptor camp doesn't get stolen, but I think there was a possibility for Klid to play a little more aggro, especially because he had Sweeper up. If he had checked with Sweeper here, I'm not sure if he had it exactly, but could have had an opportunity. Now Caps will use TP to get back to lane. And put this ward here. Since his jungler is topside, he can hug top side of the map completely and not be at risk of getting ganked. Now, one other thing to talk about here that hasn't been touched on a lot, I feel like. In LEC, we actually saw almost every single game bot laners were taking teleport as their choice. We're gonna have to pause this because Mickey looked for a roam into mid lane, which is sweet. Oh man, that is sick. So this is something Mickey does all the time. All the time he does this. Look at this. So G2 will almost always look to use their priority in bottom lane, so they full push this wave right. And this is actually pretty clean what Mickey does right here, using Guardian and the shield to hold the recall and get back to base. But then they always use this priority to turn into advantage somewhere else. So notice the wave they recalled. They recall on a cannon wave. So this is going to take like 10 more auto attacks to actually push out into this tower. And also, once the wave gets pushed into the tower, like, it's going to sit there for a longer time because the tower actually has to use a lot more shots to kill the blue side cannon wave. So what this means is that since SKT don't have TP, they're sort of forced to stay in this lane and fully push out this next minion wave, which means that effort is still here, which means that now Mickey has a ton of bonus time to look for some sort of a gank play. And that's exactly what we see from him. Is he pass straight back into the mid lane, and you see like, oh, they're pushing this out, they're taking forever, because what you always want to do on support is you want to match the reset time with the enemy support or beat them. If you beat them, you can make a play. If you match them, you can counter this gank in the middle lane. But the fact of the matter is, Effort is late on his reset. And you can see Jankos and Mickey working really well together here, moving in at the same time for this gank, just to make sure that they can be ready. Caps also flashes forward to give Mickey the second E-jump. And of course, Mickey gets hit underneath the tower, which is unfortunate. But this is still a positive play for G2. Even though Faker gets the TP back into the lane, you get more gold for splitting a kill than you do getting a kill solo overall for your team. And on top of that, they got the bonus first blood money. Now, the fallout of this play is basically that, again, you don't have priority in this top lane. Top lane's getting smashed in right now from Wonder's side. So, Khan, having a level lead, having this advantage where he can now move into the enemy jungle, wants to play super, super aggressive. And this gank happens in the mid lane, which is very unfortunate. Can't help but feel like this was an oversight here from Caps. Because remember, the desync of the support recalls was that Mickey had the play on mid lane first. Well, then it gives this window for effort to make a play. Mickey died, so he couldn't stay around to protect Caps. Jankos left, so Jankos couldn't stay around to protect Caps. So they end up getting punished, and Jankos gets punished even more off of this. Jankos, wait, he has smite. I want to turn chat off because I can't see this. It's a disaster. I really do like this play from SKT though. Pretty smart stuff. I think Khan... Ooh, does Khan troll here? I think Khan trolls this a bit. Khan should be flashing forward. Yeah, he has W up. Khan can flash and get that kill for sure. And you're not like getting punished for burning your flash here, because like there's no way Caps can respond with a play. So that should have been a kill that SKT was able to get, and should have been a kill onto Khan. Just try and snowball this top lane matchup, because you remember this is actually like one of the best areas of the map for SKT to play around at this stage in the game. At level 6, maybe you can play around bottom lane a little bit easier with the displace, but again, this duo is like very hard to gank with the mobility and the defensive output that Perkz has available. So this could have blown the matchup even more, because already it's about a 350 gold lead for Khan in the top lane. It's already going quite well for him. He's level 6 now, so actually ganking this guy is going to be really difficult. So now, SKT do know that Jankos is on the top side of the map, so this is why Klid is moving in towards Caps. His ulti got interrupted there, and now they're 2v2ing in bottom lane, and this is very troll, because remember, Jankos is top lane, and G2 know that SKT know that Jankos is top lane, because Jankos is spotted clearing a control ward. Caps knows that Klid was right there. Klid walked over this ward, so why is Caps walking this direction? I have no earthly idea. I have no idea. I have no idea. That's just craps. That is total craps. Meanwhile, Jankos is like, guys, I'm farming my jungle. Guys. Oh, it's a cool little thing here. So notice that Jankos is level 4 and Red Buff is level 6. For every level that the enemy jungle camp is higher than you, a large monster. So that's like Big Krug, Big Raptor, Red Buff, Blue Buff, etc. Any large jungle monster, for every level it is above you, you get bonus 50 experience for killing it. So Jankos is going to get 100 bonus experience because he's super underleveled. Because this spawned to the average level in the game. So this is going to try and slingshot Jankos back into relevancy. Big brain. At the same time, for every level you're ahead of a jungle camp, you get 10% reduced experience. So one thing you always want to make sure you do is, like, when he's killing these raptor camp, if he was really close to ticking over to level 6, make sure you kill the big raptor before that. Because if you tick over to 6 by killing a small raptor, you basically forfeit 50 experience, which is a big deal. So don't do that. It's like here. No, he's gonna be fine. I was hoping to find a good example, but we don't have one. But yeah, he got 50 bonus off of that. He's gonna get 50 bonus off of that. And look at that. All of a sudden, he's gonna hit level 6 off the next camp. So he's gonna be dead even with Klid. Even though he got bullied around just a little bit. Now, if we actually just pause the match right here, SKT have phenomenal vision control. Like, they have these super forward pinks right here, right there on the minimap, and this really limits what Jankos can do, because if you think about it, Jankos actually on Rek'Sai, and this is a Rek'Sai specific ward. Rek'Sai is never going to walk through here, like, ever, because if Rek'Sai is going to have like a tunnel over this wall, he's going to be tunnel vision. So it's like blue walks over to blue buff and then tunnels over towards wolves. So like this ward could go a very long time being unspotted. Same thing for this ward, unless he's actively like unburrowing and making an effort of checking those bushes. He's just not going to find those. Now this is a really risky play because Caps doesn't have Realm Warp, so he can't immediately make it in here, even though he has priority. But also, like, look how low Perks is. He has no mana either, so Jankos being level 6 can look for the one-shot on Teddy, but if they can't one-shot, they need to abort. Wait, Jankos is trolling! Wait, that tunnel just sucked. So why is he tunneling here? Why is that the end of his tunnel? Why is the end of his tunnel not here? You see the direction Teddy is walking, yes? Everyone knows? Everyone's aware of this? Yes? Everyone... He's walking in one direction, right? Okay. Sick on Burrow. Now he doesn't have CC for effort. Nice. Alright, sick. Sick. Alright, that's a free kill that was just lost. That's a shame. I personally prefer getting free kills and not giving them up. But, okay. Let's see what happens. See what happens out of this. This guy's pretty low. Jankos is resetting with... I guess he has 1k gold. Let's see. So he has enough to get a couple long swords and then pink ward. He's going to path back down for blue buff here. Now, okay, so if you actually look at the lane state, Perks is going to enter into bottom lane before Effort and Teddy get here. And Mickey's already here. So they can also set up to get a push here and then potentially play for this Cloud Drake. Because, like, even though Clit is going to walk in here, they're going to spot him out. And Jankos wants to come down here for blue buff anyways to hand it over. So I think this could be a good timing for them to play for it. With Wonder resetting, because Wonder has ulti. Was wondering if he could maybe make something happen, but instead, just gonna lose a lot to the tower up here as they hand over blue buff. Remember this ward that is always gonna show them stuff, and Clid uses ulti. Again, if Clid doesn't press R there, Jankos doesn't check that bush. I promise you. I promise you he doesn't check that bush. He has no idea that there's a ward in there. Oh, so they see Clid recalling. Look at Clid's itemization too. They know that Clid wants to go back to base and start working towards his runic echoes here. So now he's going to clear out. They also know Faker wants to reset because Caps just got his off. Or sorry, did he? No, Caps didn't get his reset off. It was just Jankos and the bot lane. So now they can move in, take this, and take the dragon, I think. You also see Wonder. So this is a fallout of Khan fully pushing the wave into top lane. So now Wonder actually returned back to lane. Wonder sacrificed a wave in top lane so he can come back. He gets push advantage. He's going to walk down, place this ward. And also, if it looked like there was going to be a fight around this dragon, well, he has charge and Khan doesn't have TP. So that would be a very easy collapse to try and make here. They actually aren't starting dragon, though. Wait a second. All right. I think G2 missed a window to take this. Missed a big window to take it right there. This ward going to be very, very clutch. Oh, Okay, so now that they see Klid on top side, now they go down towards the dragon. This is an interesting play from them. I think they could have forced it. I guess the difference is if they like were more interested in actually fighting for this objective, then they would rush it earlier without perfect vision of where the enemy is, just the knowledge that, oh, Klid wanted to recall, we assume he wants to recall, etc., and then use their waves and the priority in top lane. But they also waited until Wunder had the TP advantage. So G2 are actually playing this 100% by the books, even though I think they could have jumped the gun a little bit faster and made, you know, a good play out of it. They're going to get it just the same. It ends up being a good play for them. Now, the problem with this play is because they spent the time where SKT was off the map. Because, you know, both mid and jungle wanted to recall, right? They spent that time just getting vision and setting up their waves. Now it turns into an objective trade where if they had actually pushed a little bit faster and gone for the dragon themselves, then they could have potentially played for topside or played for the herald or put down vision to stop SKT from taking it. Even though SKT have a lot of pressure on the top side of the map, because they slowed down, this turns into an objective trade, which could really end up hurting G2 here, because they're already down 1k gold almost, and now on top of that should be another, you know, 800 gold based off of tower plates and potential first tower from that herald, which now Klid can decide who he wants to funnel that into, which very likely is just top lane. This tower's already low, so they could look to just break this tower completely, especially now that they see Xayah on bot side. They're like, okay, G2 didn't actually look for a lane swap themselves. We could potentially use this. It doesn't end up being the case, though, which is a bit surprising. Especially considering that Klid is now using his Predator to run into top lane. So what this tells me is that Klid probably wants to look for a dive onto Wunder. So he wanted to wait until this wave was fully pushed out here. And by using Predator early, you don't actually tell Wunder that you're coming, because now it's going to run out and he's not going to get the little spooky message above his head that Klid is on the way. Now, of course, he will see the Herald channeled, so that's that. But this is where G2 should be attempting to split the map right down the middle. So you can see where Jankos is. Jankos walks in. Jankos should take this camp and then walk down with caps. I think taking this camp is maybe even a little bit greedy from him, because they should be walking down and threatening to collapse on this tower right here. Yeah. I mean, I really like this response from SKT, right? You know that you're on the weak side of the map. So like if you play around this tower, it's going to be 2 versus 4. But if you fight in this jungle, it's actually a 3v2 in your favor. Like, this is just actually a really smart play. The effort trolls, because everyone knows the combo on Leona is to throw your E and then your R and then Q, because R will set up for your Q. But that's all right. That's all right, effort. We can wait. We don't have to play immediately and kill caps. Although maybe Merc Treads is enough to break from it. So end up running down here. Now, one thing G2 is very good at is giving isolated plate gold to Perks. So I think Perks should be able to get solo plate money from this, which is going to be important from him. If we're looking at the gold totals, right now it's dead even between him and Teddy, even with a CS advantage because of that first kill. But we're going to see that really inflate now because Perks get solo money. So you'll see this in a lot of games. Even when G2 can, concede the Rift Herald, they still often trade up in effective gold, whereas other teams will split the Herald money between multiple players. And we'll go back and we'll see what SKT actually do with their Herald, because a lot of times, like, junglers just are really greedy, and you can see Klid splitting half of the money. And yes, having money on a Gragas is going to be useful, but would you rather have money split between 2 people that are sort of like mid-game champions, or would you have it funneled onto someone that is going to be a late-game hyper-scaling carry? Well, I think I would probably take the marksman. That is what I would personally prefer. Meanwhile, Wunder's just getting straight bullied. The gold overall 900 lead in the top lane. Everywhere else is pretty comparable, but again, if you actually look at supports, it's like a large amount of this lead is between these 2 supports, which isn't going to end up meaning anything, really. And G2 continue to split the map. And this is something you're going to see all the time. You'll see it all the time from G2, is especially when they're at a deficit. And I think there's no better example of this than, I believe, their game 3 match. Or maybe there's a really good example later on in this match too, where they make a play for the top lane tier 2 tower. G2 will split the map against you, and they'll attempt to trade up. And they do this by just being smarter at how they allocate resources on the map, and being smarter with how they actually place their players on the map too. So I think there's an interesting stat that Jat or Vedius brought up on the cast today, which was like G2 are like one of the best farming teams, or are the best farming team in the world at like denying resources and having like a CS advantage, having a gold advantage over you through CS. And that is primarily because come mid game, Jankos just stops farming. All the gold is going to go onto perks and caps here. Cool move from G2 using their pressure. They're going to bring down Wonder. This is something else you'll see a whole lot from them, is they'll swing into side lanes, use their pressure, and then collapse down with them. So it's actually very interesting so far this game that G2 keeps sending Perks and Mickey into side lanes here. And like at the same time, they're trying to like leash blue buff over towards cap. So now they're actually not directly splitting the map. They're trying to greed for a little bit more on both sides here, because they know they have 30 seconds before this wave crashes in mid lane. So they say, we actually don't need the ultimate wave clear. We don't need caps. We don't need perks here. So we're going to send Perks in the top lane to get him solo money by himself, solo experience, because he is going to scale into an absolute monster, while the rest of the team sort of like flirts around, goes, picks up their blue buff, etc. And you can also see from the vision here that G2 had all the vision bot side. Remember, it was split down the middle here. Now G2 have flipped towards the top side because they're letting SKT dictate where the pressure on the map is. G2 are playing at a deficit. So SKT say, we want to play for bot side. We know that Infernal is spawning in a minute. So G2, they have to ask themselves, are they strong enough to go for a 5 versus 5 fight right here? I think the answer is probably no. Like, Kai'Sa is looking very strong. You know, that's Q evolve for Kai'Sa, I believe. Let me double check that. Yeah, Q evolve for Kai'Sa should be in. You know, Gragas is level 8 now. Gragas is probably more useful than Rek'Sai in a 5 versus 5 at this point. Nico very strong while Ryze is still scaling. Top lane, obviously a gap between these two players. So I think this is a really smart decision from G2 to try and split the map against them. And this is sort of the decision I was alluding to earlier on, where Infernal Drake is spawning. Everyone will tell you that, like, you have to fight for the Infernal Drake, but that's just not true. At this point in the game, G2 are down 2,000 gold. So the best play for them is to actually trade up for gold here. So they get this solo tower for Perks, right? Again, check Perks' gold. He was down about 200 or 300 towards Teddy just a couple minutes ago. Through the tower plates, he's now up 200. We'll keep tracking that though, because he's about to get a solo tower on top of that. And if we actually, one thing I do want to look at really quickly here is we're going to toggle to SKT Vision, because they actually see what's happening up here. They should know exactly what's happening. Let me rewind because I think we missed it. Okay. So he's like, okay, we see Jankos. We see Wonder bot side. Where are the other three? Okay, we see 2 in mid. He's like, okay, I can walk back up here. I'm not really worried about getting Dove. Oh, but I see Rakan and Ryze walk over. I see Rek'Sai walk in. I see Ryze here. It's like, oh, there's probably 4 people here. Spooky, spooky, spooky. All right, so I'm just going to sit here. My team's getting Infernal, but I still saw Rek'Sai come back down here. I still, like, what? How do you not assume you're getting Dove? It's a Kled defending mid lane. You have to know you're getting Dove here. You have to know. Khan should never be in this position to die. He should actually back away. Or the only defense I would give him is if he's trying to int to defend this tower. Because if he presses R and walks into this wave, he Q this, try to, you know, kill Perks, even though obviously you won't be able to. But if you're here, your only mission is to kill the minion wave. That's your only mission. He didn't do it. So now they're going to lose the tower on top of it. Now, Jankos here should have used his ultimate. I'm just going to flame Jankos just a tad because he's playing Rek'Sai and Rek'Sai's my baby. But Rek'Sai ultimate will dodge tower Aggro. So right here he should R. And it actually wouldn't go off. It would go on a 10-second cooldown because he didn't actually deal the damage. And then he would be able to retain his flash. Anyways. So SKT are still very happy with this trade. You'd have to imagine. They're like, we got Infernal Drake. We've secured some scaling power for ourselves. But remember, G2 were down 2,000 gold. They were down 2,000 gold just a second ago. Now it's dead even. So all the early game mistakes with Caps, you know, trolling twice, losing his life, right? Where they actually got beaten through this bottom lane. They lost their bottom lane tower. Top lane, they lost the tower. They gave up the Rift Herald after trading an objective that they arguably didn't have to. Now they're even in gold. And that gold lead on Perks is now up to 600. This is the most terrifying thing in the world when you play against G2. Perks is always going to have more money than your AD carry. And I guarantee next week when he plays against LWX, the LWX maybe he's going to roll into a game and he's going to have a nice early game. He's going to be up a few hundred gold. But then the way that Perks and G2 play the map, Perks is going to have more money than him, and then Perks is going to carry and do more damage. All right. Let's actually see this play from G2, because I think this play is, again, very, very interesting. Now, I wonder if the correct play is actually to try and use Realm Warp to blitz these minions into the top lane tower. It's something we actually saw Caps do a lot throughout this series. Kind of interesting. Kind of interesting. Now, ultimately, I don't think it is actually worth it because you get this tower, but you can't take inhib. You don't want to take inhib because at 15 minutes, you're just giving free money to your opponents. And arguably, actually, I say at this point in the game, mid lane outer tower is more important than top lane inhibitor tower because you also can't really split push for this. If it was bot lane tower, I'd say it could be worth it. Anyways. It's an interesting play here from G2 to try and blitz back over here and make sure they don't lose their tower. At the same time, Wonder's gonna run it down just a little bit, but they got it ultimate and ignite out of effort. So SKT, even though they do feel strong at this point in the game, remember like first items finished on a lot of their players, they don't actually feel comfortable going for this fight. All right, let's go back to all vision. All vision now. Why is he going? I'm almost positive that Spear Shojin Rush is optimal in this matchup. I'm almost positive. I think Spear Shojin is actually optimal unless you're playing on someone that's like stacking early armor. It's like, yes, there's a Ninja Tabi here, but like everyone else in the game has Merc Treads. No one else is going to be building armor. Spear of Shojin just has to be. It has to be the correct choice. Pretty troll. Okay, so the next thing that SKT should be focusing on, I guess it's a little early on into the game for like a potential Baron to be spawning, but I was thinking maybe we can start to move these control wards around. I actually think they're not going to because the one area where they have the biggest advantage is going to be with this bottom lane split push. So until 20 minutes on the clock, these 3 control wards are still going to be pretty high value for them. Oh, look at that zoom out. How pog is that? All right, so right now it's going to be Caps playing into side lane from now on. Oh, Perks is a very sad person. Still maintaining that 600 gold lead. Also now 500 gold lead for Caps as he is playing side lane. And this is a problem here for SKT. So SKT are banking a lot on capitalizing and taking down this mid lane tower. If they can't get mid lane tower here, they lose so much. Because right now Caps is getting a lot of solo money in top lane. Although, one interesting thing about this inner tower going down is it gives more time for SKT to make a play. Because really, the timer you're on when your opponents are split pushing is, especially at this point in the game, like Caps is probably not going to push in and try to auto attack and kill this tower. So what he's going to do is he's going to clear this wave and then move back to his team. So the timer that SKT are actually playing around is the timer until the minions reach this tower, because then they need a Teddy or they need a Faker or I guess a Khan to go back and pick up those minions. Otherwise, you're losing a lot of gold or you're losing a lot of experience. And because this tower is down, they actually have about like 10 more seconds that the minions have to walk. So they actually have more time to try and blitz down this tower. There's only 3 people here defending from G2. So they should be able to take this one. They should be able to. Also, since Perks doesn't have his ultimate, Clid could very easily threaten and engage with Body Slam Flash. And you have a lot of like non-committal long-range engage with the Solar Flare and the Explosive Cask. So very nice tower take from them, using their pressure on the map and knowing that G2 wanted to split up into a 1-3-1. And now that that mid lane tower has gone down, it has now opened up access to the early Baron take. Because now what this means is, right now you see all this deep bot side vision. And again, this is to secure the bot lane push, as well as Dragon, which I believe is spawning in a couple minutes. That's the one bad thing about using this replay tool, is we don't have the actual timers themselves. But regardless of that, this vision secures the split push for now, and in 2-3 minutes we're gonna see these control wards start to shift up towards the top side. And because this tower is down, what it means is that again this wave can be pushed further in, which means that G2 have to stand by this tower instead of up here, which gives them again about 10 more seconds to actually walk into the enemy jungle and place down vision. It also means that SKT can take this route into the jungle, whereas when this tower is up, this route is very dangerous and usually you have to path around. So mid lane tower going down is all about giving your team more time to make a play. And in this case, make a play isn't get a kill. It isn't take a fight. It's get vision. And that's what this is all about. It's about getting vision and setting up for the eventual play. So how do SKT use this? Because again, like the gold is very, very close right now, and we'll actually check back in on itemization as people are going home to purchase all of that. Still a gold lead here in both mid lane and bottom lane. So this is actually a very interesting point in the game where you actually look at the gold leads. It's actually, there's a 700 gold lead between the two supports. So the gold lead is actually in favor of G2 right now, I would say. Another play that G2 love to go for is the, I don't know what I call this. I like the, like it's the sneak gank or something. I don't know. You take your two soul laners, put them behind each other, and look to make a play. And you remember this, I believe, from their series against Damwon, where they did the exact same thing. But they're a little bit worried because, again, SKT can collapse on them very easily. So if they can take a fight right here, they're happy. If they take it here, it's all of a sudden very, very risky. I forgot I can control the camera like this. Oh, that's even better. I like it. Caps! He's getting spooked. So the question is, what are SKT waiting for? Because SKT is actually not a team that, like, usually, like, if you watch LCK, they weren't a team that was gonna, like, smash you with, like, multiple consecutive fights and sort of, like, bleed you out that way. It was actually, they were gonna play around objectives. So they're probably waiting for this Drake to spawn. And then they'll probably have to wait for Baron to, you know, be a relevant objective. Even though, like, now they have 2 items, Kai'Sa should be doing very well off of that. Does she have her second evolve? Yeah, she does. Nice. But also the way that G2 or SKT have been playing the map, it's always 1-3-1 into group, 1-3-1 into group, 1-3-1 into group. And this is a primarily defensive or a more passive way to approach the mid game. Because when you play 1-3-1 into group, what it does, it actually, you spend more time not with like pressure on the map, because 3 players have a much harder time getting like actual presence like inside the enemy jungle than 4. So that's why we actually don't see like deep vision up here. It's because they've been spending more time split apart. Whereas like if we see a lot of what G2 do is like they're like looking for like 2-man in bottom lane, or it's like 4-1. They're very rarely spreading out and occupying all 3 lanes. And you can see this again playing around the dragon that's spawning. They have 4 members in the river, and then you have Caps down bot side. Now, what is going to be problematic is that this next wave is going to be bad news. Oh, Perks has to ulti. This next wave could be bad news because Teddy should go up here and push this wave in and threaten this, threaten this tower. Well, Perks is actually now in bottom lane. So SKT have full control right now. But no one is in that bottom lane. So Perks is just like hitting, wait. Okay, Perks. Okay. So, let me let me explain to you why you can't do this. So, there's a fundamental difference between having this like solo ADC pushing in mid lane versus pushing in bottom lane. Because, and the main reason why is like, let's assume Teddy actually pushed through here and like G2 came up as well. Well, the fact of the matter is that if 4 people are collapsing on someone in mid lane, like you're standing here, they're collapsing towards you, well, you just run that way. and they can't fight you. They can't actually kill you. Whereas in bottom lane, there's nowhere to run. There's nowhere to run. You have this giant wall that's in your way. You can't go past it. You can't go this way because they're coming around you. So Perks is just actually left out to dry. This is very, very greedy by him. Especially because, too, look at this. Wonder just pieced out. They don't have vision on, or I think they just saw Teddy. So, like, Wonder was, like, running back here in case Teddy was pushing, so they could stop this from happening. But now, G2 are completely divided. They're completely divided. And they get engaged on here, too. Like, Mickey almost dies here. And remember, Perks actually didn't have ultimate. Big mistake here from Perks. Now, because Wonder did run into mid lane, they're actually going to be able to deny. And wait, do they actually get this tower too? That would be funny. Okay, no, they can't get tower. And they don't even deny anything because there's a cannon wave here. So the tower isn't going to kill any of the minions. So poor play from G2, certainly. They are reaching their items now, though. They have 2 items on Perks, 2 items on Caps. Rek'Sai is really struggling, though, and Rek'Sai will continue to struggle because Jankos isn't going to get any money. But as SKT returned onto the map, like, they all came here for Dragon, while, again, Wonder ran top lane for gold. So that has been one thing that we've seen a lot from G2, is they are prioritizing farm and like, turrets over like these major objectives. And like even there was a sense of that around this Cloud Drake where Perks goes bot lane and fully pushes out and keeps auto attacking this tower. And yes, that was kind of an I don't know why you would necessarily do that, but that is the idea. They're always trying to have more money than you. That was also a nice play from Caps. Gotta give him credit on that one. Looking clean. Khan struggling. So now, we talked about this earlier on, but I do believe that G2 outscale. It's not like super clear cut, but I think with Ryze plus Xayah, you do have the late game. So now for the next 10 minutes, I am looking at SKT, like, what can you do to progress the state of the game forward? Because I haven't seen it. Like, they've only been able to really play around objectives for now. G2 have split the map against them and really stalled out SKT from doing anything and neutralized the gold advantage. Now, to their credit, Teddy has now jumped ahead in gold, thanks to some kills and Perks running it down just a little bit. But the mid lane difference is even bigger. It's a 1k advantage. And even though bot lane has now gone positive for Teddy, the top lane matchup, where Wonder was down 700 gold for the entire game, is now actually net positive for him. It's net positive for Wonder, which is kind of nuts to think about. And G2 making their same play as usual. That was unfortunate. They can just take the tower. They have double TP. It's like, what can SKT do? Faker can try his best to clear the minion waves. So SKT are like, can we force in mid lane? Oh, they're not in a position to force. G2 are playing passively enough. It's actually really interesting that Xayah is in top lane for this play. Because to me, I would assume that you want Xayah to be in mid lane for wave clear. But if you actually look at where the waves are, it makes a lot of sense why Perks is in top lane. Because this wave is like behind mid lane tower, right? Whereas the top wave is actually closer to Perks. So Perks can pick this one up and then make the rotation towards mid. So as SKT are fanning out and not really having an advantage, a tangible advantage anywhere, like mid lane, even though they have an advantage, it's 3v2. Now 4v2, they can't threaten this tower. G2, with a 2v1 bot side, actually can, which is very nicely done from them. Beware the collapse, though, G2. Don't want to get caught out by that again. This ward coming in very clutch. Really good ward for them, as a matter of fact. They also have this deep vision there that Caps placed, I believe. So now all G2 have to do is play around with their food, continue to activate Caps plus Wonder in a side lane, because we can just see them do that 2-man play one more time. Just keep running that back. So SKT are like, we actually feel like we need to force this Baron. This Baron needs to go down. But looking at itemization, look how fed Caps is. Holy God. He's so insanely strong at the moment. He's so insanely strong. So they don't even need Wonder in bot side anymore. Why is he running there? What? 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 Trolls. So they have Rek'Sai, who's fantastic at scouting, both because of Tremor Sense and also Q. Also, wait, they have a ward? Why are they trying to bait? Xayah wants to recall. Xayah has 1,800 gold. Caps isn't here. You have no damage. He's negative gaming. This is not a normal Summoner's Rift experience. Oh yes, let's kill them with Rek'Sai, Kled, and Rakan. That'll do it. Oh my God. So G2 continue to have some questionable maneuvers, but Caps is in bot lane. So SKT are against the clock. They have to force. They have to force. They have to go right now. But they're delaying. Why are they delaying? 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 Why are they doing this? Look at bot lane. Why are they? Use a TP. Use a TP. So Faker should teleport here. Or Khan should teleport here. They have 2 TPs, so in theory you should be able to defend against a push. And I know like you can like big brain it and say like, oh, but maybe they're worried about like 2 players of G2. What they're worried about Wonder plus Caps coming down here to backdoor. But you need to have a tower alive in order to, you know, defend. So I say teleport here. I think Caps also plays this too passively. But granted, he doesn't have Realm Warp, which is like his best defensive tool. And he's like, well, I'm just going to come back anyways. As Wonder does the side lane play. So this is something that FPX needs to be aware of come drafting versus G2. You have to consider one thing that you never talk about in a draft is the solo laners 2v2. Because you talk about individual matchups, right? You talk about top lane jungle 2v2. You talk about mid lane jungle 2v2. You talk about bot lane plus jungle 3v3, right? You talk about all those things. You never talk about solo lane 2v2. And that's what G2 activate in side lanes all the time, especially when they have someone so powerful like a Ryze. And the fact of the matter is, Kled plus Ryze, they have so many great things for side lanes because you have like the explosion ultimate in Realm Warp. Thanks for the sub, by the way, Mishikari. You have hard engage with this Kled, right? You have the charge, right? You have damage coming through from the Kled. So you have a lot of burst DPS and consistent DPS from this 2 versus 2 that quite frankly, those two just don't have. Like they do have damage, but they're just worse versions. So you have to think about that. You have to have a side lane wave clear a champion. And that's what like Nico's going to be doing here as well. What? Oh my God. Faker is playing with fire. He didn't use any of his abilities on the wave. Pretty troll. Now, I did see criticism for Jankos on this attempt, so ultimately this is a very good trade for G2. There was criticism, I believe, on the cast too, where it was like, why didn't Jankos go for the steal? Well, it's because they have no vision. No control ward. Perks, no control ward. How do you get vision? You can throw a Q into the pit. It's on cooldown. They can body block it. So he actually has no idea when it's going down, so like, there's no reason for Jankos to ever go for the steal. See, he tries to Q it for vision. He has no idea what's going on. You can't. Without control words, you can't try it. I sort of liked this from G2. Now, like, you might ask, like, why doesn't Jankos try to, like, tunnel through this wall and go for the fight? I probably would have, but ultimately, like, you're looking at double TPs on this side, so they hold off. They say, no, we're not going to do that, which is fine. But G2, like, what is the value of a Baron, you ask? Well, you get some stats, you get some gold. But what are you trying, what's the aim of the Baron? With the stats and with the gold and with the Baron, like, minion buff, your goal is to take an inhibitor. The first Baron of the game, the goal should always be to take an inhibitor. Well, G2 have already done that, so they're actually happy. I think they trade down in overall gold from this play eventually with SKT picking up a tower or two, but G2 should be very content with this because now they have threatened bot lane. Now that Baron is down, like actually everything that G2 want to have happen happened here because not only so here's the thing. Usually you take bot lane inhibitor and you want to play for top lane inhibitor. But if Baron is up, you want to be split pushing bottom lane. So it's really hard to get anything done. Like, yes, you can threaten Nexus towers, but you're really hardly ever going to end the game through that. So by Baron being down and the objective being a Drake, Ryze actually goes top lane and is super happy. Like, yes, of course, G2 would like to have the Baron buff, but by having the main objective be bot side, but also having the inhibitor down bot side, it's like, well, Ryze just, everything says you want to go top lane. Everything says that. It's a Cloud Drake too, so... What did G2 do? Well, they have all the vision. They can split the map one more time, and Caps can make this play up here. So, SKT have to be able to hard force. SKT continue to try to group up because they know they lose the side lane 1v1. They know that they lose the side lane 2v2. So, with Baron buff, can we push for an advantage? Not actually. Not actually. They're splitting themselves up one more time. They have 2 players around bot side. They have 3 around mid. How can you hard force? It's not very easy. Caps is going to pick up the blue buff and be like, well, is anyone defending top lane? No. So now Renekton recalls, and he goes to pick this up. Now they're waddling around in mid lane, because again, they didn't commit with numbers advantage anywhere. G2 were split up. G2 had Wonder and Caps in top lane. It's only 3 players here. SKT could have had a 4-man advantage, could have had a 5-man. Even if they send someone to clear top lane, like with Khan, they could have had a 4 versus 3 in mid, that they just do not opt to take. And this is going to slow down their Baron significantly. Baron, we can't actually see the timer on it. That's a little bit unfortunate. Wonder is having a tough game. That's his first death, but let's be clear, Wonder is having a very tough game. Should not be doing that whatsoever. At the same time, though, Caps is pushing bot lane. And the minions take it. They even get the flash off of Clid. So, the question now you have to ask is, yes, SKT got the kill. Getting a kill is great. That's a death timer. 50 seconds. What can you do? Maybe you can push and make something happen. But, and on top of that, you got gold, right? So it's like, okay, Khan gets some money. But no matter how much money Khan has, he is always going to lose to Ryze in a side lane. That is just a fact. That is a fact. He doesn't have Spear Shojin. Now he's going MR. Like, this build is just garbage. Just trash. Trash. And obviously he needs MR now. But, like, trash. It's so useless. And now the second inhibitor open, Ryze can do whatever he wants. And what is SKT's only play? We already said that SKT lose the soul lane split push battle. 1v1 and 2v2. So the only thing they could possibly win is a hard force initiation. Well, what are your initiation tools primarily? You have Leona, and you have Gragas Body Slam Flash. With Flash down for 5 minutes, now they only really have Leona ult or like Flash E or something like that. So their initiation tools have been slashed, which, you know, Cap still has his Flash. He's still going to be hard to force on in a side lane, so losing your life there from Caps, it's better not to burn the Flash. It's better. Perks now has his 3-item power spike, so he's very strong, even though he should be down in gold, I believe. Yeah, so he's lower gold than Teddy. But again, mid lane has exploded. That's a 2k advantage. I will say that Khan is back on top once again, but we don't care about the top lane matchup. It's really just like, how does Cap stack up against the rest of the game? Well, you have 2 players with almost 13k. You have a player with 13k here. And these are the 2 hyper carries, so you tell me who should win a 5v5. You tell me. Also, oh my, no, you didn't just do this. Khan, you didn't just build a spirit visage. What is that? All right, let me explain to you guys real quick the power, the raw power of Adaptive Helm. Look at this. Unique passive. Taking magic damage from a spell or effect reduces all subsequent magic damage taken from that spell or effect by 20% for 4 seconds. Multiple sources of magic damage can have this effect active at any one time, and the duration is tracked separately per source. So, notice there's no cooldown. There's no cooldown on this. So this just continually refreshes. Okay, interesting. Multiple sources of magic damage can have this effect at any one time. Okay, interesting. Let's look at Ryze's kit. Let's look at Ryze's kit. Monkahum. Ah, I see. I see. Oh, Q, Overload, with a 6-second cooldown. Ryze's other abilities reset Overload's cooldown and charge a rune for 4 seconds. They reset its cooldown. Okay, so every time you cast W or E, you get to spam a Q again. What does that mean? That means that after your first Q, every other Q is going to only deal 80% damage from Ryze. That seems pretty strong. Okay. Cooldown on Rue Prison, 9 seconds. Okay, that's not actually that big of a deal. That's okay. You're not really going to get value off of this. But, I see. Spell Flux has a 2.25 second cooldown. And Ryze is going to be building CDR, so after every E you throw, it's going to reduce the damage of E by 20%. And again, with this being such a low cooldown, you're getting so many Qs off and so many E's off. It seems like Adaptive Helm would just be a really value purchase when you're going to be stuck sitting in a side lane against Caps. And you look at the magic damage on the enemy team, it's literally just Ryze. So please, please just build Adaptive Helm when you're playing against Ryze, when you're playing against Kai'Sa, when you're playing against Cassiopeia. It is so strong. And I don't care how much healing you're getting off of your Conqueror or your Q, Spear Visage just ain't it. It just ain't it, friend. It just ain't it. Because let's be real, you're not going to be in melee range to actually hit Caps. It's just not going to happen. Why Kai'Sa? Because her passive, Kai'Sa's passive, Plasma, does a lot of magic damage. So it reduces the magic damage % missing health damage that you take from Kai'Sa, which is a ton. It's a ton. It also reduces damage coming in from, like, let's say the Q. Anyways, continuing on. Build Adaptive Helm when you're versus champions that have recurring magic damage effects and spells. Okay, so right now G2 are trying to fix their waves to enable Caps in the side lane. Notice how Wunder is always trailing him. So Wunder just actually isn't really farming anymore. That's why he's falling further and further behind. He's the protection service for Caps. Because you can't really have Jankos be that person. Excuse me. Wow. You can't really have Jankos be that guy because he doesn't have TP. He doesn't have a global ultimate. Rest in peace, old Rek'Sai. I miss you, babe. So he's just always here to cover. Interesting. Very interesting. He thinks he can just split the map against Khan. Khan is so spooked right now. Khan's like, what is going on? Where's Xayah? It's actually kind of crazy. I actually can't believe he did that. He's a madman. Wunder is out of his mind. Alright. So we're probably playing for the next Baron. It's an Infernal Drake spawning next. We don't have the exact timer on that. And on top of that, Inhib's going to be coming back up. So Inhib should be back in like 30 seconds. So what do Caps and Wunder do? It's the buddy system. It's always the buddy system. And you watch G2 doing the buddy system while SKT just sort of run around mindlessly. Like, it doesn't look like SKT know what to do if there's not an objective to fight over. And that's especially concerning because G2 aren't giving them objectives to fight over. G2 are just, like, giving them objectives. Like, yeah. Take the dragon. That's fine. We'll get a kill top lane in 2 towers. Yeah, that's okay. Oh, yeah, sure. Have the Baron. We'll just take your bot lane inhibitor. That's totally fine. They're like, wait a second. Our comp that was sort of like a mid-game spiking comp never got a fight. We're 9 minutes, or we're 31 minutes in, and we only have 6 kills. Wait a second. Now, G2 did stop doing the buddy system here. So I have to fault them for this. This is also a problem because Baron actually hasn't spawned yet. So it's not like G2 can actually blitz play for this objective. But this is where G2 do something really cool, because they've swept all this out. They know there's no vision here, so this is where they set their trap. Because that pick very well could have been the thing that exploded the game. Because remember, now the inhibitors have respawned. If SKT can force this fight 5v4, they either win the fight or they get the Baron for free. Then they can charge down mid. They can actually force with this Baron. Whereas on the last Baron, they couldn't because the inhibitor was down. And because G2 had pressure on map. Now, G2 don't actually have the pressure on the map. So all they have to do is somehow make it into this river. Let's toggle vision. Toggle vision for SKT. Okay. SKT see Wonder here. Okay. They're pinging onto the Baron. They're like, okay, G2 might be trying to rush this one down. We see Jankos. We see Perks. We saw Jankos and Perks right here. We see Wonder. Faker knows he's spotted. They still have no eyes on Mickey, but they should know that Perks is down this way. Faker? Negative gaming? So we see Perks underneath Jankos, right? So it's stance region. He could be here, he could be here, he could be here, he could be here, he could be here. You would have seen him. SKT should know that if Perks was walking in a straight line, if he was walking in a straight line, you would see him in the river exiting up this way. So there's two options. Perks can either be looping around this way, which is inherently dangerous because, again, SKT can cut him off, or he's sitting down here. And remember, we have no eyes on Mickey. So right now what SKT are doing is they're TPing behind. They're trying to find this collapse onto these two players, but they lose track of their own flank. Faker can't walk this direction. I don't even understand why he's trying to walk this direction. Faker has to be walking up here. Realistically, Faker should be behind this wall walking this way. But even then, if you're like disrespecting G2 a little bit, or you weren't paying like super close attention, like hug this wall and walk up towards your team. Don't walk straight through the river. That just doesn't make any sense. That just doesn't make any sense. And now he's dead, and it's like, okay, Effort has to flash over this wall. It's now a 4 versus 4 situation. In 25 seconds, Caps is going to be able to teleport back into this. There's a 20-second window where now G2 have the numbers advantage. So what did G2 do? G2 have the option to play for Baron here. Why do they not play for Baron? They don't play for Baron because a lot of their ultimates are down. And their primary turning ultimates, you consider how they turn off of Baron, it is through the quickness and it's through charge. It's not through like Rek'Sai, it's not through like Xayah Feathers. So I actually think playing for Dragon makes more sense. Because SKT are much more likely to seed it for you. Even in the 4 versus 4. Then you also, it's like the much more guaranteed objective, so you get that added damage. We can actually see how much damage it gives players like Perks. So he has 272 AD right now. And we'll see what that ticks over to. Oh, we should give our vision back. 272 turns into 300. Okay, so he just got 28 AD. That's what, like 3 longswords more? All right. Let's check out the real carry. Check out Caps. He has 565. Woo! He's got 60 AP. He's got 60 AP. He's feeling it. He's feeling it. So now they do give control over the Baron. They do give control up over the Baron. So how did G2 get in here? Pled reset. They have beautiful flank TP wards. They could even teleport here. Cap still hasn't entered the fight, mind you, which is slightly suspect. And now the TP's coming. We'll watch it one time and then we'll go down and break it down. Oh, fake it, that ult sucked. Well, there you have it. Absolutely smashed. Alright, let's check out the setup on this fight. So, at this point, the Baron is too high HP with G2 coming in for SKT to do anything. So they have to be able to turn. We lost all our cooldowns. Okay, all of these ults are up for SKT. Those flashes, everything that's like just got burnt is up. Okay, that's the one problem with this tool. Okay, so everyone's spells are up except for the quickness. The quickness does not look like it is up. Anyway, so TP is going to come in initially here from Wonder, and we'll actually check out itemization first. Kaisa, giga strong right now. Kaisa probably has the most gold in the game. 1,500? Yeah. So Kaisa has to carry here for SKT, but that is not an easy task because Kaisa needs to have some way to kill Caps and Perks, but he can't. Kaisa can't get onto Caps and Perks unless the fight is split up, which it is not. So let's see how this one unfolds. Right now, Cap still hasn't entered the fight. This is a little bit concerning because it's going to be another 4 seconds before he can actually get in here. So SKT need to turn immediately. Look how low Clit is, though. Clit is also has just lost a considerable amount of health. Also, Faker is only level 15 here. So he's 3 levels down to Caps. That's a lot of effective gold. So even though it's 3k gold lead, like, don't let that, like, mislead you. It's a big gold lead here. G2 are very strong. And Faker is missing, like, so much bonus damage off of his ultimate for not already being level 16. So, Effort is going to Hex Flash over the wall. And then the TP comes in. This is going to be the Nico TP on the flank. So what SKT are trying to do is they want to sort of corral G2. They want G2 to exit through here and get in this cluster so that Faker can come over this wall with a giant Pot Blossom and catch like all 4 of these players. That is the goal. Because then you can also have Renekton, who's really beefy with his ultimate, like burning down everyone inside the corridor. You have Leona ult, you have Gragas ult, and then you want to like split up the fight. So you want to get this initial Wombo combo and then use Gragas ult to like split the fight. So it's like the backliners get bumped away and everyone else gets knocked in towards them that way. And that way, you can have Teddy free fire on the front line, kill all those guys instantly, and then go zwoop and ulti straight into the back line. Oh, you're saying Nico's passive is Gragas? He's level 17? Okay, good to know. So how does this unfold? Well, Perks has to use his ultimate immediately. But Faker, who is cosplaying as Clid right now, is so late to this fight. He's so late. So the question is, could he have teleported sooner? He is dead, and now he's alive. But he can't really TP right now, because G2 are right there. So he has to wait, he has to wait, he has to wait. He should be TPing now, I think. Faker is pivotal in this team fight for SKT. He must be here at the start because they have to be able to layer their abilities correctly. If not, the consistent DPS of Caps and Perks wins out. So Perks kites back, Caps enters this fight late, and then they're stuck in this corridor. So Wonder still has his mount available. So this damage not going to mean too much. Jankos uses a stopwatch. The other 3, including the 2 primary carries, have not been spotted out, and now SKT are completely destroyed. All their engaged tools are down. They have no way to actually close the gap onto Perks and Mickey. Like, they tried to turn it around, but Perks with a good QSS flash is going to escape, and they instantly win the team fight. And here's where things get really wild. They actually run into bottom lane, of all places, and they're going to use the Realm Warp. So you actually have Jankos running for this first, so he's trying to speed things up. Perks probably should have run this way too, and they could have made it even faster, but they're going to say, boo-doo-doo-doo-doop, minions come with us. All we have to do is tank this. And they can win the game. One team fight is all it took. And it's because G2 recognize their win conditions super, super well. They recognize it all. And if you go back to the early portions of the game, it was like, okay, Jankos has the ability to gank early on. We didn't see that come to fruition. I think SKT did an excellent job of tracking him. The early game was a little bit rough for G2, in all honesty. But they knew they had the split push win condition. And what do? They activate it. They trade every objective. They trade an Infernal Drake. They traded, they gave over the Herald. They gave over the first Baron without any contest. And it was also that Caps could go into a side lane and take objectives. And on top of that, they continue to employ the strategy where they have Wonder sit behind Caps in a side lane and allow you to take virtually every single objective off of your opponents. And they knew eventually they would outscale. So even though Wonder had a tough time, just get enough money onto Caps and Perks and they're going to carry you. So you split push until the point where you can win a team fight. And that's what they did right here. The first fight they genuinely took 5 versus 5. They just broke it wide open.